The Winter Holiday Event Part 2 is coming to end out the 2023 year of Pokemon Go. Now this event will run from Monday, December 25th at 10 a.m. to Sunday, December 31st at 8 p.m., meaning Part 2 starts right when Part 1 ends. In terms of bonuses, they will be exactly the same as in Part 1, so we had that choice between bonus Stardust or bonus XP for catching Pokemon. And as I mentioned in the first video, if you haven't made your choice yet, then Stardust is always a good option. However, if you're grinding out XP to hit level 40 to finish that timed research to get those 5 battle passes, then you definitely want to go with the bonus XP. And we're also going to get increased XP and Stardust from opening gifts. Looking at the research, in field research, we're going to have a bunch of encounters again. They are switching up slightly. So for this event, we will have Pikachu wearing holiday attire, Alolan Vulpix, Psyduck wearing holiday attire, Shelder, Jinx, Lapras, Stantler wearing a holiday outfit, Spiel wearing a holiday scarf, Snover, Glaceon wearing an undersea holiday outfit, Vanillite, and Crabrawler. Notice that this is the event where Vanillite is making its shiny debut, so you will be able to hunt shiny Vanillite during this event. Then if you bought any of the ticketed timed research for Part 1, they will carry over to Part 2. In fact, you may have already completed them because they became available as soon as Part 1 went live. I don't know if that was on purpose or if it was a mistake, but if you bought it for Part 1, you may have already finished it. If you didn't buy it for Part 1 and you do want to buy it for Part 2, you can do that. You will still also get Part 1, and both parts can be completed pretty easily. So looking at both of these paid timed research, let's start with the $2 one. For that, you're going to get a bunch of event-themed Pokemon encounters, such as Spiel wearing a holiday scarf, Cryogonal, Psyduck wearing holiday attire, as well as 2 premium battle passes. In Part 2, you're going to get the same thing, but slightly different Pokemon, so you'll get those event-themed encounters. And this is going to include Psyduck wearing the holiday attire and Cubchoo wearing a holiday ribbon, and you'll get 2 more premium battle passes. So that's a total of 4 premium battle passes, which kind of does balance out that $2. However, if you're not a person who spends real money on battle passes anyways, this is also probably not worth it to you. Now there's also a $5 research ticket available in the store right now, and that gets you the hot chocolate pose once you complete it, plus double catch candy and some holiday themed encounters as well. Now again, this is only worth it if you planned on buying the pose anyways, because it basically costs $5 to get the pose. So if you wanted to buy it, definitely get it this way, because not only do you get the pose, but then you also get those bonuses and those encounters. However, if you weren't going to buy the pose, then this ticket, again, probably not worth it to you. Next up, let's look at the wild spawns, and the wild spawns here are pretty much the same as Part 1, but with a few changes. So in the wild, we are going to see Pikachu wearing the holiday attire, Alolan Vulpix, Psyduck wearing holiday attire, Seal, Eevee wearing a holiday hat, Swinub, Delibird wearing a holiday ribbon, Snorunt, Spiel, Galarian Darumaka, Vanillite, Cubchoo wearing a holiday ribbon, Cryogonal, and Citadel. So we've got the shiny Vanillite in there, as well as the shiny Psyduck with the costume. And then the rare spawns will be the same, so that is that Sneasel, Piloswine, and a Mara. Now remember that Sneasel is a perma-boosted 1 in 64 shiny, so you might want to get out and hunt that one if you haven't been already. The raids are also going to change up a little bit from Part 1. So in 1-star raids, we're going to have Pikachu wearing holiday attire, Alolan Vulpix, Cubchoo wearing a holiday ribbon, Crabrawler, and Citadel. And then in 3-star raids, we're going to see Dugong, Lapras, Delibird wearing a holiday ribbon, and Glaceon wearing an undersea holiday outfit. That's it for the raids. Let's move on to the eggs. So we are going to have those 2-kilometer event eggs again, and they're pretty much the same. However, we're going to see that addition of the Psyduck wearing holiday attire. And very similar to Part 1, that Eevee is going to be a boosted shiny, but also the Psyduck will be a boosted shiny as well. And like I said, in Part 1, hunting shinies through eggs can be expensive. So if you're not somebody who already buys incubators, this is probably not the best way to hunt the shinies. Do it in the wild. And we will also have event-themed Pokemon showcases during Part 2. Looks like they worked out for Part 1. No Squirtle, so hoping that continues for Part 2. All right, let's move on to Meta-Relevancy here. Because the spawns are very similar to Part 1, most of it is the same. I will review that at the end of this, but first, let's look at what's new for Part 2. And that is the addition of Alolan Vulpix, which evolves into Alolan Ninetales, affectionately called A9. Now, A9 is an Ice Fairy dual typing with base stats of 170 for attack, 193 for defense, 177 for stamina, and a max CP of 2,610. Now, with those base stats, there is not much use for A9 as a raid attacker as either an Ice or Fairy type. To put it in perspective, Beartic, which is a pure Ice type, ranks higher as a Fairy type attacker than A9. And that is a little bit unfortunate because A9 does double resist Dragon, but just can't do much to hit back. It does see play in PvP though, mainly in the Great and Ultra League. You can run it in Master League, but it's mainly there to hit Dragons and Dark types. It will be crushed by anything else. It is also costly to run in Ultra League or Master League, as you have to take it all the way or pretty close to level 50. It does have a unique typing though, with that Ice Fairy dual typing and good access to powerful moves from each type. So this gives you some flexibility with how you want to fit it into your team and run it in each of these leagues. Now I put up a couple possible moveset combos here. The first one is PvP PV Pokes recommendation. I do find that Dazzling Gleam takes a long time to get to though. Psychic on the other hand is a little bit quicker, gives some decent coverage for neutral damage, and helps ward off poison types that may come out for A9. However, you can mix and match these moves as your team comp demands. Now A9 does also have a decent amount of weaknesses, so make sure to have answers for those, especially Rock and Fire, which are pretty common in the meta. Steel also does 256% damage. Now, unlike a lot of the Pokemon we've looked at lately, this one requires no legacy moves, so it is very cheap TM-wise to get PvP ready. All right, because these two events are so similar, the rest of this video will be reviewing that same information. So if you don't want a quick refresher, you can dip out now. Maybe check out some of the other videos we have on the channel. We've done some fun live streams lately. For everybody else, let's get into it, starting with the new Pokemon, Psyduck, which evolves into Psytitan. Now, Psytitan has an attack stat of 208, a defense of 123, and a stamina of 347 with a max CP of 3,519. As you can see, the stamina on this beast is getting up there with the likes of Blissey with a slightly lower HP stat, but a higher attack stat. Still, it doesn't have any use as a raid attacker, and in PvP, this land whale is ranking number 75 in the Master League right now with Ice Shard, Avalanche, and Body Slam. However, that's likely due to its bulky HP stat, Ice-type moveset, and the prevalence of dragons in the Master League. So how will it actually run in that league? The answer is probably not good, and there are definitely better choices with more coverage for taking down dragons. That being said, it is the only Pokemon in the main series game that can learn Ice Spinner. Now, the effects of Ice Spinner won't port over to Pokemon Go, but it could maybe help Psytitan out in a future update for a community day. Either way, it's going to need a move update of some kind to make it useful. All right, next up, let's look at the ones that are useful as raid attackers. We're going to have Spheal in the wild, which does evolve into Walrein. However, it's going to have the Holiday Scarf, so it can't evolve yet, but it can be shiny. The evolution might come later, plus you can still farm candies from it. Now, Walrein has an attack stat of 182, a defense of 176, and a stamina of 242 with a max CP of 3,081. In terms of PvE, it is an okay budget option for Ice-type raid attackers, but there are better options in the next two Pokemon I'll talk about. However, Walrein is a bit of a PvP beast, seeing play in all the open leagues. In the Great League, its Shadow does rank higher, but I personally had fun with my non-Shadow, which does retain a little bit more of its bulk. And while its base stats do leave something to be desired once you hit the Master League, those 2 Calm Day moves that it gets helps it out quite a bit. However, that does make it very pricey in terms of elite TMs. So if you're just getting a Walrein now and you want it to be as useful as possible in PvP, you are going to need to use an elite fast TM and an elite charge TM to get it its preferred moveset. All right, next up we have Swinub, which evolves into Mamoswine. Mamoswine has an attack stat of 247, defense of 146, and stamina of 242 with a max CP of 3,763. In terms of raid attacking, the Shadow does rank higher, but it is an amazing Ice-type attacker at number 5 and a decent Ground type at number 13, even without the attack boost from Shadow. You can also run it in the Master League for sure, but as an Ice and Ground type, you will need to protect it as it doesn't have many resistances. But that Stone Edge and High Horsepower are a nice addition to give it some coverage for its Ice-type moveset. Next up, we have Galarian Darumaka, which evolves into Galarian Darmanitan. This is a great one to see in the wild. It is pretty rare. Usually you're only hatching it from eggs, so it will be nice to be able to farm candies from this. Hopefully it's not too rare a spawn. It's not listed in the rare spawn, so it should be decently common. Now, Galarian Darmanitan has an attack of 263, defense of 114, a stamina of 233, and a max CP of 3,511. It is a great Ice-type raid attacker to fill out your Ice roster. It ranks number 4 overall, including Megas and Shadows with Ice Fang and Avalanche. I personally like using my shiny Galarian Darmanitan in raids. It's fun to throw out there and looks pretty wild on the field. Next up, we have Eevee with the Holiday Hat, which can evolve into its usual forms in Pokemon Go. So that includes Sylveon, which is a good Fairy-type attacker, ranking at number 7. Again, good for taking down dragons, as well as Dark types in raids. Sylveon has the base stats of 203 for attack, 205 for defense, 216 for stamina, and a max CP of 3,470. You can also run it in the Master League, again, because there are so many dragons. Also good at taking down fighters, and right now it's ranking at number 95 in the Master League. Eevee can also evolve into Umbreon, and Umbreon is good in the Great League and the Ultra League, especially the Premier Cup. It's pretty bulk focused, but for Ultra League, you'll have to take it to level 50 and get that best buddy boost to get the most out of Umbreon. In terms of stats, it has an attack of 126, 206, a defense of 240, a stamina of 216, and a max CP of 2,416, which is again why you need to take it all the way to level 50 and get the best buddy boost. In terms of moves, Last Resort is the suggested legacy move for PvP, but don't overlook the second legacy move, Psychic, for coverage against fighting types if your team comp needs that. And then Eevee can also evolve into Glaceon, and Glaceon will also be out with its own Undersea holiday outfit. So if you want 2 Glaceons in different outfits to throw into raids, it is a decent ice type raid attacker. It's not great, there's better out there, but if you want the costumes to throw in, you might want to get one of each. We also have Snover from the field research, which evolves into Abomasnow. Abomasnow has a Mega in the game, and Mega Abomasnow is a decent ice type raid attacker, coming in at number 7. In Mega form, it has an attack stat of 240, a defense of 191, a stamina of 207, and a max CP of 3,850. Now again, there are better ice type raid attackers available. However, if you don't have a Mega for this, you might want to get one just to Mega for the Dex entry, or if you like to have variety in your roster, then you might want to get it and actually use it for raids. Otherwise, you might want to focus on getting an Abomasnow for the Ultra League. It is ranking number 48 in the Ultra League right now with no legacy moves needed. Now that grass and ice dual typing means it is an ice type that can go up against water types, and a grass type that can both destroy other grass types and go up against flyers, giving your team a decent amount of coverage in one Pokemon. Now in terms of Great League, the Shadow does rank significantly higher there, but you can do some damage with the non-Shadow still. All right, that covers all the Pokemon that might have usefulness as raid attackers. Let's look at the ones that are strictly for PvP now, starting with Lapras from the raids and the field research. Now the thing with Lapras is it has 3 different legacy moves, including the fast move Ice Shard and the charge moves Ice Beam and Dragon Pulse. The Ice moveset being the most desirable for Ultra and Master League, combined with Surf to take advantage of the water-ice dual typing. That moveset will make him spammy, but it also makes him expensive, again requiring 2 elite TMs to get him PvP ready. So if you've got one with the moves and you need candy, definitely go out and get those. If you don't, this is kind of an expensive one, so unless you really like Lapras, really want to run it in PvP, you can probably skip it, or just focus on hunting the shiny. Next up, we have Alolan Sandslash. Alolan Sandslash boasts a lot of resistances, which makes it quite nice for PvP. It has an attack of 177, a defense of 195, a stamina of 181, and a max CP of 2,750. Now you do want the legacy fast move Shadow Claw, which was just available during the catch-up Calm Day, and generally the Shadow variant is better. Personally, A-Slash has been a staple for me this season, trying to complete my level 44 requirements in GBL, and with Medicham dropping off, it is a bit safer to run now as well. However, keep in mind that both fighting and fire do 256% damage, so have answers to both of those on your team to protect Alolan Sandslash. And then we'll also have Seal, which evolves into Dugong. Now Dugong doesn't have the beefiest stats, with an attack of 139, defense of 177, stamina of 207, and a max CP of 2,245, which means it is limited to the Great League, ranking number 93 with its 2 legacy moves Ice Shard and Ice Wind, and that Drill Run for coverage. Its low max CP really limits any use beyond Great League though, so that's all you really need to worry about, is getting one for Great League and you're set for Dugong. All right, that pretty much covers the meta relevancy for everything. I didn't touch on things like Bergmite, which evolves into Avalugg, and Amara, which evolves into Aurorus. Avalugg can be a decent ice type raid attacker, but again, there is so much better out for that right now. I would focus on the other ones. And Aurorus does have some play in PvP, but because of its ice rock typing, it has a lot of weaknesses, particularly a lot of double weaknesses, so you really have to know how to use it to run it. Its moveset does give it some decent coverage. All right, that's it for meta relevancy. Let's get into a few tips for this event. As you can see, it is definitely a heavily ice focus event. Most of the meta relevant Pokemon have ice typing. Definitely Mega Evolve an ice type, so that would be Mega Glalie or Mega Abomasnow. That way you're going to be able to maximize your candies. This will also be a good time to work on your ice type Platinum medal if you haven't finished that. Lots of ice types out there to catch. There are also going to be a lot of different types of Pokemon out in raids, so if you're still working on that Rising Star medal, which requires you to defeat 150 different species of Pokemon in raids, you could also work on that one. And then with the event-themed holiday Pikachu spawning, you can also work on that Pikachu fan, where you need to catch 1,000 Pikachu if you haven't finished that one yet. In terms of showcases, those are something I definitely try to participate in. They are, in my opinion, the best new feature added to the game because they offer the best rewards out of the new features, but that's really only applicable if you're ranking in the top 3 in showcases. And to do that, you want to go to showcases that are in less busy areas. So that could be in more rural areas, but it can also be in the city. Just look for areas that don't don't see as many Pokemon Go players coming by. So generally there will be less stops and less gyms there. If you can find a showcase in an area like that and get in it, you are more likely to rank higher as there will be less competition. Some people also like to do the sniping. This is where you put in a lower ranking Pokemon, wait until just before the showcase ends, and then swap in a higher ranking Pokemon. The problem with this is you risk forgetting, getting a crappy ranking, and getting terrible rewards. So personally, I try to go to the less busy showcases, throw in my highest Pokemon right away, and see where that gets me. And I do often get in the top 3 doing that, and I've even won 4 or 5 showcases within a busy city doing it this way. Again, just like part 1, definitely very ice heavy for this event. My main focus is going to be getting those Swinub and Darumaka candies. Both forms of Darumaka a little bit rare to come across in the wild, so it's nice to be able to stock up lots of candies during this event. I did manage to get the shiny costume holiday Pikachu during part 1, which was very nice. I'm curious if anybody else got any of the shiny costume Pokemon. Did you get any during part 1? Let me know in the comments down below. That's it for this one. If you found the video useful, consider giving it a like. It does help me reach a wider audience and to keep making videos. Subscribe for more Pokemon Go news, tips, and live streams. If you want more Pokemon Go content right now, check out the video on the left or the one on the right. Happy hunting, and we'll see you in the next one, friends.
Power to the people. Power to the people. Power to the people. I've got something incredibly funky.